In this video, we're going to be going over area and circumference of circles. So if you look at your formula sheet, you can see the formula for a circle, and I'm going to circle it on here. And let's first talk about the formula for area. So if you look on your formula sheet, it has A equals pi r squared. I want you to rewrite that formula as A equals pi times radius, because radius squared is the same thing as radius times radius. So we're going to rewrite that as A equals pi r, like a pirate, r. And then we're going to do our circumference formula. And there's actually two formulas for circumference. So we have C equals 2 pi r, and we have C equals pi d. So let's talk about what did those letters mean. R stands for radius, which is half the distance of the circle. So if we look at this measurement here, this 4 millimeters represents the full distance. The radius right here is half. So R, let me change that to a lowercase, R equals 2. So this right here is the full distance, so that would be the diameter. So D, which is the diameter, is 4. And that's the full distance across the circle. And the last thing, C, that stands for circumference. And that's like the perimeter of a circle. So we have A, which is the area, and that covers the full circle, and then C, which is like the circumference, which is like the perimeter of a circle. So let's write down the formula for the area. So we have A equals the pi r, pi times r, and the radius is halfway across the circle, so in this case the radius is 2. So we have A equals pi, we're going to leave a space for that. Then we have an r times an r. Now we know from our previous activity that pi equals 3.14, and it's also on your formula sheet. So we're going to plug that in. 3.14 times 2 times 2. And I think it might be easier if you start with the 2 times 2 first. So we have A equals 3.14 times 4. And then if you do 3.14, and you can put this in parentheses if you want to, times 4, you're left with 12.56, and we're measuring millimeters, and area is squarea, so it's millimeters squared. And it's squared because when we have this r squared here, it's like we're making little squares out of the radius. So these are like little 2 by 2 squares, and then we're going to fill up the circle with the squares. So just like on the previous shape when we were cutting them into little squares, we're doing the same thing with the circle. Okay, now we're going to find the circumference twice, because I'm going to show you how to do it with the diameter, and I'm going to show you how to do it with the radius. So let's start with the diameter first. So C equals pi d, which is, I'm going to leave the blanks now, d, and then let's plug those in. Pi is 3.14, diameter is 4, and then you're just going to multiply them together. 3.14 times 4 equals 12.56 millimeters. And it's just plane, it's like perimeter. So perimeter's plane, just like circumference is plane. So just plain millimeters. And now let's do it with the radius. C equals 2 pi r. And you have to multiply 2 times pi times radius because it's like multiplying the radius by 2, so you can get back to that diameter. So C equals 2 times pi times r. And if we plug in those, 3.14 times r, which is 2. And so if you do, I'm going to do 2 times 3.14 first, which will equal 6.28 times 2. 6.28 times 2 gives you a circumference of 12.56 millimeters. So they came out to be exactly the same whether I use the radius or the diameter. There's just some problems you'll be given the radius, some problems you'll be given the diameter, and you can work with either one depending on what you're working on. So let's scroll down. I want you to try 1, 2, 3, and 4 on your own. If you need to, pause the video, rewind it, rewatch how did I do the area and how did I do the circumference. You're going to do the area for number 1 and number 4, and you're going to find the circumference of number 2. Now here's a hint. For this one, you're going to do circumference with the diameter, so this one's pi d. And then this one is circumference with the radius, because it has a radius. So this is a radius, and this is a diameter. Be careful when you do the area formula, because the area formula is pi times radius times radius. This is not a radius, this is a diameter. So you're going to have to divide that in half. So you get radius equals 2 for this problem. And the same thing for this one, it already gives you a radius, so you don't have to worry too much about it. So go ahead, pause, and I want you to do those 4 on your own. Alright, and here are your answers to numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4. Be careful on the 2 area ones that you made sure you had millimeters squared and meters squared, because you're making little square boxes to fill up the circles. And the circumference one should just be plain. Also make sure that you did radius times radius for the area. If you have any questions, make sure you rewatch the video or go ask your teacher for help.